Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever looked around at your life and wondered why some things never seem to change? You make promises to yourself. You say, this will be the year I get serious. You decide that tomorrow you'll wake up earlier, work harder, save more money, improve your health, repair your relationships, or finally chase the dream that's been sitting quietly in the back of your mind. But somehow tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month, and before you know it, another year has passed. The question is, what happened? The answer is often simpler than we want to admit. We spend too much time waiting for something outside ourselves to change. We wait for the economy to improve. We wait for better opportunities. We wait for someone to encourage us, support us, or believe in us. We wait for luck to arrive. But while we're waiting, life keeps moving. Time keeps passing. The seasons never stop. The calendar never pauses. The greatest turning point in anyone's life comes when they stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do about it? Those two questions may sound similar, but they lead to completely different lives. One creates victims. The other creates leaders. You see, responsibility is not a burden. It's a gift. Because the moment you accept responsibility, you also accept the power to change. As long as someone else is responsible for your future remains in someone else's hands. But when you take ownership, your life begins to belong to you again. Now, don't misunderstand me. Life isn't always fair. Some people begin with more advantages than others. Some face hardships that no one should have to endure. There are disappointments, betrayals, setbacks, and losses that arrive without invitation. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control what happens inside you. You can decide how you respond, and your response will always matter more than the event itself. Think about the people who inspire you. Chances are they didn't become extraordinary because life treated them gently. They became extraordinary because they refused to let difficult circumstances write the final chapter of their story. They accepted responsibility for the one thing no one else could control, their own choices. Every day you are making decisions. Sometimes they seem so small that they don't appear important. You decide whether to get up when the alarm rings or press the snooze button. You decide whether to spend an hour learning something valuable or scrolling through distractions. You decide whether to keep your word to yourself or make another excuse. These decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they quietly shape the person you are becoming. Here's what many people never realize. Your future is built long before you arrive there. It is being constructed by the choices you make today. Every habit lays another brick. Every decision strengthens or weakens the foundation. And eventually, you live inside the house you've been building all along. So if there's something in your life you don't like, don't spend all your energy complaining about it. Complaints have never changed a bank account. They have never strengthened a marriage. They have never improved your health. Complaining only convinces you that someone else holds the key to your happiness. And they don't. Instead, ask better questions. What skill do I need to learn? What habit do I need to replace? What fear do I need to confront? What discipline have I been avoiding? Those questions move you forward because they point you toward action rather than excuses. One of the most dangerous habits a person can develop is blaming. Blame is comfortable because it protects the ego. If it's always someone else's fault, then you never have to change. But comfort has a price. The price is your potential. Every excuse you defend becomes another chain that keeps you exactly where you are. Successful people are not perfect people. They simply become very good at looking in the mirror before looking out the window. They ask themselves, what could I have done better? That question may sting for a moment, but it opens the door to growth. Every honest answer becomes another opportunity to improve. Remember, responsibility doesn't mean carrying guilt for every mistake you've ever made. Guilt keeps you trapped in yesterday. Responsibility gives you the freedom to create tomorrow. There is a tremendous difference between saying, I ruined everything, and saying, I can improve from here. One destroys hope, the other builds it. The beautiful thing about life is that change doesn't require permission. You don't need the perfect circumstances. You don't need everyone's approval. You don't need to wait until Monday, next month, or the new year. The decision begins in a single moment when you say, from this day forward, my life is my responsibility. That simple decision changes the way you think. It changes the way you spend your time. It changes the standards you live by, and little by little, it changes your entire future. Once you accept responsibility, you stop searching for shortcuts and start building strength. You stop depending on luck and start depending on discipline. You stop waiting for life to improve and become the person who improves life. And that's where every lasting transformation truly begins, with the courage to own your life. Once you accept responsibility for your life, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop searching for dramatic breakthroughs and start paying attention to the small choices that quietly shape your future. That's where real change lies, not in one extraordinary day, but in hundreds of ordinary days lived with purpose. People often believe success arrives all at once. They imagine that one lucky opportunity, one big promotion, one brilliant idea, or one life-changing event is all it takes. But if you study the lives of people who consistently achieve great things, you'll discover a different story. Their success wasn't built in a single moment. It was built one habit at a time. A habit is simply a decision you've made so many times that it begins to make itself. That's why habits are so powerful. They either work for you or against you, whether you're paying attention or not. Every morning, every afternoon, every evening, your habits are quietly writing the next chapter of your life. Think about this. If you improve by just a tiny amount each day, it may not seem impressive. In fact, tomorrow you'll barely notice the difference. Next week, the change may still be invisible. Even after a month, someone looking from the outside may not see anything remarkable. That's where most people give up. They mistake invisible progress for no progress. But life doesn't reward what is immediately visible. It rewards what is consistently repeated. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You don't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. You water it. You protect it. You trust the process. For days, maybe weeks, nothing appears above the surface. Yet underneath, roots are forming. The foundation is growing long before the fruit appears. Your habits work the same way. Every page you read strengthens your mind, even if you don't feel smarter today. Every workout strengthens your body, even if the mirror hasn't changed yet. Every dollar you save strengthens your future, even if your bank account still seems small. Every kind word strengthens your relationships, even if no one thanks you immediately. The small things are never really small because they are repeated. Too many people underestimate the power of consistency. Because consistency isn't exciting. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't usually earn applause. It's quiet. It's ordinary. It's waking up when you said you would. It's keeping your promises to yourself. It's doing the work on the days when motivation has disappeared. Motivation is wonderful, but it comes and goes. Some mornings you'll wake up feeling unstoppable. Other mornings you'll wonder why you even started. If your future depends on motivation, your future will always be uncertain. But if your future depends on discipline, then progress becomes dependable. Discipline says, I'll do it whether I feel like it or not. That is one of the greatest freedoms you'll ever discover. Because once your actions are no longer controlled by your emotions, your life begins to move forward with remarkable consistency. Now, don't make the mistake of trying to change everything overnight. That's another trap people fall into. They become inspired, and suddenly they want to wake up 3 hours earlier, exercise every day, read 2 books a week, eliminate every bad habit, learn a new skill, and transform every area of life all at once. For a few days, it feels exciting. Then reality arrives. The routine becomes overwhelming, exhaustion sets in, and they quit. Not because they lack potential, but because they tried to build a lifetime of success in a single weekend. Instead, focus on one small improvement. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Write 10 pages instead of none. Take a walk when you would have stayed on the couch. Save a little money before spending the rest. Spend a few extra minutes learning something valuable. These actions may seem insignificant, but never judge a habit by today's result. Judge it by where it will take you in 5 years. Every action casts a vote for the person you're becoming. When you choose discipline over comfort, you're casting a vote for a stronger future. When you choose learning over entertainment, you're voting for wisdom. When you choose patience over impulse, you're voting for stability. Day after day, those votes begin to define your identity. Eventually, something wonderful happens. The things that once felt difficult become natural. Discipline becomes part of your character. Excellence becomes your standard rather than your exception. And here's another secret. Good habits don't just improve one part of your life. They begin influencing everything else. The discipline you develop by exercising starts showing up in your work. The patience you learn while building your career begins improving your relationships. The confidence you gain from keeping promises to yourself spills into every conversation, every opportunity, and every challenge you face. Success is never isolated. It spreads. The opposite is also true. Small acts of neglect may seem harmless today, but repeated long enough, they become expensive. A little procrastination becomes missed opportunities. A little carelessness becomes regret. A little laziness becomes a life that no longer resembles the dreams you once had. That's why every day matters. Not because one day changes everything, but because every day is connected to the next. Your future isn't created by giant leaps. It's created by faithful steps taken over and over again until they become impossible to ignore. So don't wait for the perfect moment to begin. Don't underestimate the value of one disciplined choice. Great lives are rarely built through dramatic changes. They are built through ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. Because in the end, your habits don't just shape your days, they shape your destiny. Now, after you've accepted responsibility for your life and begun building strong daily habits, there's another transformation that has to take place. It happens where no one else can see it. Before your circumstances change, your thinking must change. Every lasting improvement in life begins with an improvement in the mind. Many people spend years trying to change what they see around them. They want a better job, a bigger income, healthier relationships, more confidence, more opportunities. There's nothing wrong with wanting those things. The mistake is believing they come first. They don't. The way you think determines the way you act, and the way you act determines the results you experience. Think about two people standing in exactly the same situation. They face the same obstacle, the same disappointment, the same setback. One person sees the problem and decides, this proves I'll never succeed. The other says, this is difficult, but there's something here I need to learn. The circumstances are identical, but the outcomes will be completely different because their thinking is different. Life has an interesting way of responding to the story you tell yourself. If you constantly tell yourself that you're unlucky, you'll begin noticing every piece of evidence that supports that belief. If you convince yourself that you're not talented enough, every challenge will seem like proof that you were right. If you believe that success belongs only to other people, you'll unconsciously avoid the very opportunities that could change your future. But the opposite is just as true. When you begin believing that every challenge contains a lesson, you'll start looking for wisdom instead of excuses. When you believe that skills can be developed, you'll stop fearing failure because every attempt becomes practice rather than judgment. When you believe that your future is created by your choices instead of your past, you'll begin making different decisions. The mind is like a garden. Whether you plant flowers or weeds, something is going to grow. The question isn't whether your mind is producing thoughts. The question is whether those thoughts are helping you become the person you want to be. That's why you must become careful about what you allow into your mind every day. Pay attention to the conversations you listen to. Pay attention to the books you read. Pay attention to the voices you follow. Pay attention to the people you spend your time with. Every influence is planting seeds. Some seeds produce courage, others produce doubt, some create vision, others create fear. You cannot constantly feed your mind negativity and expect your life to become positive. The good news is that your thinking is not fixed. You are not trapped by the beliefs you've carried for years. Many of those beliefs were handed to you long before you had the wisdom to question them. Perhaps someone told you that you weren't capable enough. Perhaps you grew up believing success was reserved for people with more education, more money, or better connections. Maybe you failed once and quietly decided that failure defined you. But a belief is not a fact simply because you've repeated it for a long time. One of the most liberating moments in life comes when you begin asking yourself, is this really true? That single question has the power to break chains you've carried for decades. Maybe you're stronger than you've been telling yourself. Maybe you're more capable than you've allowed yourself to believe. Maybe the limits you've been fighting aren't real limits at all. Maybe they're old conclusions that no longer deserve a place in your future. Understand this. Every achievement is created twice. First, it's created in the mind. Then it's created in reality. Before a house is built, someone imagines it. Before a business exists, someone believes it's possible. Before a goal is accomplished, someone decides that it can be accomplished. The visible world is always shaped by an invisible decision first. That's why successful people guard their minds so carefully. They don't pretend problems don't exist. They simply refuse to let problems become their identity. They acknowledge obstacles, but they focus on solutions. They experience fear, but they don't surrender to it. They face uncertainty, but they continue moving forward anyway. You have far more control over your life than you sometimes realize. You may not control every event, but you always control the meaning you attach to it. One person calls an obstacle the end of the road. Another calls it the beginning of a new direction. One gives up after rejection. Another becomes wiser because of it. The event may be the same, but the interpretation changes everything. So start paying attention to the conversations you have with yourself. Those quiet moments matter. The words you repeat in your own mind eventually become the life you experience. Replace I can't with I'll learn. Replace it's impossible with how can I make it possible. Replace why is this happening to me with what is this trying to teach me. Those aren't just positive phrases. They're powerful questions that shift your focus from limitation to possibility. Little by little, you'll notice something changing. You'll begin seeing opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You'll recognize lessons where you once saw failures. You'll develop confidence not because life has become easier, but because your thinking has become stronger. And when your thinking changes, your decisions improve. Your actions become more intentional. Your habits become more consistent. Before long, the circumstances you once hoped would change begin responding to the person you've become. Everything begins inside before it appears outside. So if you truly want to change your life forever, don't start by chasing a different world. Start by creating a different mind. Once your thinking begins to change, you'll notice something else that may surprise you. It's not just your habits that need to change or your mindset that needs to grow. There is an old version of you that cannot go where you're trying to go. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because we become comfortable with who we've been, even when who we've been is the very reason we're stuck. Every person carries two identities. One is the person they are today, built from years of repeated choices, familiar routines, and deeply rooted beliefs. The other is the person they are capable of becoming. The distance between those two people isn't measured by talent. It isn't measured by money or education. It's measured by the willingness to let go of what no longer serves you. You cannot build a new life while protecting an old identity that keeps pulling you backward. Many people say they want change, but they also want everything to stay familiar. They want greater success without greater responsibility. They want better health without changing daily habits. They want stronger relationships without becoming better listeners. They want confidence without facing uncomfortable situations. But life doesn't work that way. Growth always asks for an exchange. To gain something you've never had, you must be willing to release something you've always held on to. Sometimes it's an excuse. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes it's the habit of settling for less than you're capable of. Whatever it is, there comes a moment when you have to decide whether you're more committed to your comfort or your future. Think about a tree in the middle of winter. From the outside, it appears to be losing something. The leaves fall away, the branches stand exposed, and it seems almost lifeless. But nature understands something we often forget. What falls away is making room for what comes next. The tree isn't dying. It's preparing. Your life works much the same way. There are seasons when letting go is the most productive thing you can do. Let go of the belief that your past mistakes define your future. Let go of the stories you've repeated about why you can't succeed. Let go of comparing your journey to someone else's. Comparison steals focus from the one life you've been given to build. There are people who spend years introducing themselves by their limitations. They say, "I've always been this way. I'm just not disciplined. I'm not good with money. I'm too old. I'm too young. I've never been confident." Notice what happens when those words are repeated often enough. They stop sounding like opinions and start sounding like permanent truths. But they are not truths. They are habits of thought. The person you were 5 years ago made decisions based on what they knew at that time. You have learned since then. You have grown since then. Why should yesterday's identity be allowed to control tomorrow's possibilities? One of the greatest freedoms you'll ever experience is realizing that you are not required to remain the person you used to be. Every morning gives you another opportunity to choose differently. You can choose to respond with patience where you once reacted with anger. You can choose discipline where you once chose delay. You can choose courage where you once chose fear. Those choices may seem small in the moment, but every new choice weakens the grip of the old identity and strengthens the new one you're creating. Now, don't expect everyone to understand your transformation. Sometimes the people around you are more comfortable with the old version of you because that's the version they learned to expect. When you begin raising your standards, pursuing bigger goals, protecting your time, or refusing to participate in negativity, some people may question your changes. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your growth reminds them of the changes they're avoiding. Don't let that discourage you. You don't need everyone's approval to improve your life. You only need the courage to stay true to the person you're becoming. That may also mean changing your environment. Spend enough time around people who complain, and complaining begins to feel normal. Spend enough time around people who make excuses, and excuses become easier to justify. But surround yourself with people who value integrity, discipline, learning, and personal growth, and you'll discover that excellence has a way of becoming contagious. Protect your environment because your environment quietly shapes your expectations. And while you're changing your surroundings, don't forget to change the standards you hold yourself to. Standards determine the quality of your life. If your standard is good enough, you'll usually stop at average. But if your standard becomes excellence, not perfection, but excellence, you'll begin doing things differently. You'll prepare more carefully. You'll speak more thoughtfully. You'll manage your time with greater intention. You'll stop asking, what's the easiest way, and start asking, what's the right way? That's the difference between wishing for a better life and building one. Remember, transformation isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about becoming more of who you were created to be. It's about removing the fear, the doubt, the excuses, and the limiting beliefs that have covered your potential for far too long. The greatness you admire in others isn't reserved for a select few. It's developed one courageous decision at a time. So don't be afraid to outgrow the version of yourself that no longer fits your future. Thank that person for getting you this far. Learn from every lesson, and then keep moving forward with confidence. Your past may have introduced you to the world, but it does not have the authority to define the rest of your life. The life you've been hoping for begins the moment you're willing to leave the old you behind. Once you've made the decision to leave behind the version of yourself that no longer serves your future, there's one investment that should become a lifelong priority. It isn't the stock market. It isn't real estate. It isn't a business opportunity. The greatest investment you will ever make is the investment you make in yourself. Everything you hope to achieve in life will eventually depend on the person you become. Think about it this way. If someone offered you the opportunity to own the most valuable business in the world, you'd probably study it carefully. You'd learn everything you could about it. You'd protect it. You'd improve it. You'd make wise decisions because you understood its value. Yet every single day, you wake up with something even more valuable than a business. You wake up with your own mind, your own abilities, your own character, and your own potential. The question is, are you investing in those with the same level of commitment? Too many people spend years wishing their income would grow while neglecting the skills that produce income. They hope for better opportunities without becoming better prepared. They want greater influence without becoming more trustworthy. They want extraordinary rewards while putting in ordinary effort. Life rarely works that way. The marketplace has a simple rule. The more value you bring, the more valuable you become. If you want your life to improve, focus on increasing what you have to offer. Learn new skills. Strengthen the ones you already have. Become someone who solves problems instead of creating them. Become dependable. Become curious. Become the kind of person others can rely on when things become difficult. Success has always been attracted to value. That means your education should never stop the day you leave school. In fact, that's often when the most important education begins. The classroom teaches you how to pass exams. Life teaches you how to grow, and growth belongs to those who remain students long after everyone else believes they've learned enough. Read books that challenge the way you think. Listen to ideas that stretch your perspective. Ask questions. Seek wisdom from people who have walked the path before you. Never allow your mind to become so full of certainty that it has no room left for learning. The moment you believe you know everything is the moment you stop growing. But investing in yourself goes beyond knowledge. It also includes your health. Your body carries your dreams every single day. It carries you to work. It carries you toward your goals. It carries you through every opportunity life places before you. Treat it with respect. Eat with intention. Move your body regularly. Rest when you need to. A healthy body gives a determined mind the strength to keep going when the journey becomes demanding. Then there is your character. Skills may open doors, but character determines whether those doors remain open. Your reputation is built one decision at a time. Every promise you keep strengthens trust. Every honest conversation strengthens respect. Every act of integrity becomes another brick in the foundation of your future. People are often searching for secret formulas to success while overlooking the qualities that have always mattered. Reliability, honesty, humility, discipline, kindness. These may not seem exciting in a world chasing quick results, but they are the traits that stand the test of time. Another investment that many people underestimate is the people they choose to spend time with. Take a careful look at your closest relationships. Do those people encourage you to grow, or do they encourage you to stay comfortable? Do they challenge you to become better, or do they celebrate excuses? The people around you don't make your decisions for you, but they influence the standards you accept. Spend enough time around people with vision, and your own vision begins to expand. Spend enough time around people who believe that hard work matters, and you'll begin working differently. Spend enough time around people who value growth, and you'll discover that excellence starts feeling normal instead of exceptional. Choose your environment wisely because environments quietly shape destinies. Now, let me share something else that's easy to overlook. Investing in yourself also means protecting your time. Time is the one resource distributed equally to every person. Rich or poor, young or old, each of us receives the same 24 hours every day. The difference is not in how much time we have. The difference is in how intentionally we use it. Be careful where your hours go. Minutes may seem insignificant, but they become your life when collected over the years. 1 hour spent learning each day becomes hundreds of hours of knowledge. 1 hour wasted every day becomes years that can never be recovered. Ask yourself often, is what I'm doing today creating the life I want tomorrow? That's a powerful question because it forces you to think beyond the present moment. It reminds you that every decision is either an investment or an expense. Some activities pay dividends for years to come. Others simply consume your energy and leave nothing behind. The beautiful thing about investing in yourself is that no one can take those returns away from you. Money can be lost. Businesses can fail. Circumstances can change without warning. But the wisdom you've gained, the discipline you've developed, the skills you've mastered, the character you've built, and the confidence you've earned become part of who you are. They travel with you wherever you go, opening doors that circumstances alone never could. Never underestimate what a single year of consistent self-improvement can accomplish. Read a little every day. Learn something new every week. Practice your craft until it becomes second nature. Strengthen your health. Protect your integrity. Raise your standards. Keep growing even when no one is watching. Those quiet investments may not attract immediate attention, but over time they create a life that speaks for itself. Remember, the world doesn't reward you for the potential you possess. It rewards you for the value you develop. So make yourself your greatest lifelong project. Continue learning. Continue improving. Continue becoming stronger than you were yesterday. Because when you invest in yourself every single day, your future has no choice but to become richer. Now we've arrived at the point where everything comes together. You've accepted responsibility for your life. You've discovered the power of small daily habits. You've changed the way you think before expecting your circumstances to change. You've made the courageous decision to leave behind the version of yourself that kept you stuck. And you've committed to investing in yourself every single day. The question now is this: will you continue? Because the truth is, changing your life isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. Anyone can feel inspired for a day. Anyone can become excited after hearing a powerful message or reading a great book. Inspiration is wonderful because it gets you started. But it is commitment that keeps you moving long after the excitement has faded. There will be mornings when you don't feel motivated. There will be days when progress seems invisible. There will be moments when you wonder whether all your effort is making any difference at all. Those moments don't mean you've chosen the wrong path. They are part of every worthwhile journey. Don't confuse slow progress with failure. Nature teaches us this lesson over and over again. A mighty oak doesn't grow overnight. A river doesn't carve through stone in a single afternoon. Mountains are shaped over centuries, not days. The greatest transformations in life happen quietly, patiently, and consistently. Your life follows the same pattern. Sometimes you'll look around and feel as though nothing is changing. But if you've continued making the right choices, if you've remained faithful to your habits, protected your mindset, and invested in your own growth, then change is already happening. It may not be visible yet, but it is taking place beneath the surface. That's why patience is one of the greatest companions of discipline. People often quit just before the results begin to appear. They spend months building momentum, then abandon the process because success hasn't arrived according to their timetable. Imagine planting seeds, watering them faithfully, and then walking away just days before the harvest because you became impatient. How many opportunities have been lost simply because someone gave up too soon? Stay with the process. Remember, your job is not to control the timing of every reward. Your job is to control your effort. Results often arrive later than expected, but they almost always arrive for those who refuse to stop. And when setbacks come, and they will, don't see them as evidence that you're failing. See them as opportunities to prove that your commitment is stronger than your circumstances. Failure has an interesting way of introducing us to ourselves. When everything is easy, anyone can remain positive. Anyone can stay committed when the rewards are immediate. But adversity asks a different question. It asks, how badly do you really want the life you've been talking about? Your answer isn't given through words. It's given through persistence. Every setback carries two possibilities. It can become a stopping point, or it can become a starting point. The choice is always yours. If you stumble, stand back up. If you make a mistake, learn from it. If a plan doesn't work, create a better one. Never allow a temporary defeat to convince you that your dream has become impossible. One difficult season does not define an entire life. Think about how many successful people could have quit after their first disappointment. How many inventions would never have existed? How many businesses would never have been built? How many remarkable lives would have remained ordinary if someone had decided that one failure meant the end? The difference is not that successful people avoid failure. The difference is that they refuse to let failure have the final word. So make a promise to yourself today. Not a promise based on emotion, but one based on conviction. Promise yourself that you'll keep showing up. Promise yourself that you'll continue learning even when progress feels slow. Promise yourself that you'll remain disciplined when distractions become attractive. Promise yourself that your standards will not rise and fall with your feelings. Your future deserves that kind of commitment. As the years pass, you'll discover something remarkable. The habits that once required effort become part of who you are. The discipline that once felt difficult becomes natural. The confidence you were searching for quietly grows because you've kept enough promises to yourself that you finally trust your own word. And that may be one of the greatest victories of all. When you trust yourself, fear begins to lose its influence. Doubt becomes quieter. Decisions become clearer. You no longer need constant encouragement because you've built something far more powerful, inner certainty. There will always be new goals to pursue, new mountains to climb, and new lessons to learn. Growth is not a destination where you finally arrive and stop. Growth is a way of living. The moment you stop growing, you begin settling. And the moment you begin settling, you slowly drift away from the life you were capable of creating. Never settle. Never believe you've reached your limit. Never let yesterday's success become today's excuse to stop improving. Wake up each morning with the attitude of a student. Stay humble enough to learn, disciplined enough to work, grateful enough to appreciate the journey, and courageous enough to keep moving forward regardless of what yesterday looked like. Years from now, people may look at your life and call you fortunate. They'll admire what you've accomplished. They'll notice the confidence, the peace, the success, and the influence you've built. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was thousands of quiet decisions made when no one was watching. It was choosing responsibility over excuses, discipline over comfort, growth over complacency, and commitment over convenience. That is how lives are transformed, not in one extraordinary moment, but through ordinary choices repeated until they become an extraordinary life. So as you leave here today, don't simply carry these words with you. Carry a decision. Decide that this chapter of your life will not end where the last one did. Decide that your future will be written by your actions, not your excuses. Decide that no matter how long the journey takes, you will keep becoming the person your dreams require, because the day you refuse to turn back is the day your new life truly begins.